Welcome to Conversations with Garmamie. This is episode 26.
Where lines and angles blur and bend into mist, Toronto is Prague, without a hankering of narrow streets, narrow sky, and virgin tight apartment blocks. It is London, long jumping our imperial shadows, Trafalgaring into space. In winter, the north comes to visit without our lights. Not even Scheveningen could breathe such bone-bending blast. Sir Winter, gruff, arthritic old braggart with woolly mane. Is that snow on his head, or is it showing cast hair, fluorescent against the night of Africa's dark politician? As we sit in Düsseldorf, in a foyer of smoked hotel wine, and eye the question. Photographer, you have no perspective wide as the Autobahn, from Scarborough to Etobicoke, where the roads scream and cry, rubber, rubber, tears long as a calendar year. And look where the streetcar has left a scar in the brush flower as it goes Berlining around Queen's Avenue.
Our guest is
Amatoritsero Ede.
He's a Globetrotter and an internationally award-winning poet with a doctorate in English. And Dr Ede has plenty to say regarding the state of the Canadian knowledge and creative economy, as well as the need to foster innovation and job creation and the value and importance of arts funding. And of course, Dr Ede recites a few poems. He's appeared in 11 poetry anthologies as well as one creative nonfiction anthology in Germany, Canada, Nigeria, and the USA. He also speaks to us about the Maple Tree Literary Supplement, an electronic literary and arts journal with a focus on creating dialogue and intercultural communication amongst Canada's multicultural and diverse societies through literature and art, while on the other hand, encouraging global cultural understanding through representing the stories and arts of writers and artists from all over the world.
People who come to Canada with different professions, lawyers, judges, medical people coming in here. And
foreign credentials and integrating people with experience.
Who have lifelong experiences elsewhere. So you cannot reduce everything to Canadian experience. Actually, what was this human rights? I think the Human Rights Commission in Toronto last year or 2 years ago decided that this is discriminatory. If people come in here and you tell them they can't do anything because they don't have Canadian experience, you are sort of holding them back many, many years. So the government need to have programs where if you come in at the point of entry, they need to know what is your area of specialty. But you fill forms, so they know already. They have all the documents. Then they integrate these people because you need to harness all the energy coming into this. The talent, you need to harness.
So now you tell us about your experience. Give us kind of like an overview of.
Well, from my own, I have a PhD in English. I even got my degree in Canada, and I finished 2013. I'm not really focused on only just academic jobs. I've been looking for work. I can't find one. Of course, we know that the conservatives sort of messed up the economy. They created a artificial scarcity. They created artificial recession. Saying what was the recession here? The recession they had in the U.S. 2008 was huge. Right. So what's going on in the U.S.? They recovered. They pull the economy back from the precipice because they have a principle for job creation. They're always talking job creation. I never heard the Conservative Party talk about job creation. All they talk about is minimum wage, and they want to increase it. And then they increase it, they give you 25 cents. It's how do you expect people? You want people to actually start robbing banks because it means that bank robbery would then become a profession. That's what they are suggesting. If you push people to such a corner that you don't give them opportunities to develop businesses, to grow businesses, to earn a decent wage.
Just to play devil's advocate, would it be fair? Would it be fair to say, is it the government's responsibility to create jobs?
Oh, yes. That's what they do in the U.S. This is North America. Canada is part of North America. Obama is talking about job creation. Every day on the CNN, you see they report every quarter how much jobs has been added to the economy.
But is that the government, the public sector's responsibility?
The government needs to create incentives for the public sector to be able to generate jobs, create, I have this literary journal, this website that I've been trying to monetize. If, for example, they didn't cut so much funding in the arts, I'll be able to monetize it, then I'll be able to hire people. That means I created job already, because of government incentives. So the government incentives what they have is disincentives, more like.
Okay. Now, if you were prime minister, what would you do? What would be your platform? Come on.
What I will do, the first, Canada's future, the economy, everything depends on immigrants. It's an immigrant country. You need the labor, you need the manpower to fuel the economy, to make the economy grow bigger. So you don't expect people to come in with loads of money. Not everybody has money, but they have cultural capital that they are bringing in. They might not have cash, money, fiscal money, but they have all kind of symbolic capital, cultural capital. And then how could they turn this, let it fuel the economy? The government has to I will create incentives to allow people, if you're coming here and you're a medical doctor you're a surgeon, you shouldn't be driving a taxi. It's ridiculous. The economy is losing. Doctors, there's a scarcity of doctors in Canada, nurses, yes. Yeah. But when these people come with what I heard, whether it's rumor or not, but there's no smoke without fire, is that people come in and they do exams, they try to pass these exams, but it's already sort of like from the beginning, it's decided how many people will be allowed to pass in 1 year. How many people?
Really?
That's what those people involved themselves say. And so you find doctors come in here and then they move out of Canada again. You have accountants come in and then they leave Canada, and this is what I call reverse immigration. I have an essay on it on the Maple Tree Literary Supplement, the issue number 16, which I call Experience, Inexperience, and on Canadian Poetics. This is a talk I gave at Harvard in 2013, and it's published. So you have people come in, and because their hopes are dashed, they are utilized, and they are underemployed, and their dreams becomes nightmares, so to speak. So you find them moving out. You revolve. It's a revolving door. People move in, and then move out again somewhere else. Either to US or to Europe or to wherever it is they're coming from. And this is not good for the Canadian economy. The most important thing, especially in the knowledge economy, is you need manpower, knowledgeable manpower.
So I just have a few more questions on that. Like, we're obviously in a global economy. Yeah. Everything is integrated. Companies operate out of multiple countries. Definitely. There's different markets. There's an audience for everything and a market for everything.
Globalization, in short.
It is. So what would you say, is this just part of, considering that there are many people, Emma, like yourself, who are professionals with credentials who cannot transfer that, or finding it challenging.
Yes, find some challenges.
Like, wouldn't Kevin O'Leary from the CBC?
Yes, I think I know the name. Yeah.
He, I remember one time he was giving advice, and I don't know why I'm using him. I'm even making reference to him, but the advice we gave was for people who are moving in. No, for recent graduates, if they really want to make, like, to make big money, as you would say, because he's all about making big money. He's all about making big money. Yeah. He suggested moving to the BRIC countries now: Brazil, Russia, India, China. And
so how does he think that should happen? You should become a bird and fly in and without checks, no borders.
Well, this is what
to steal the passport. What is he talking about? Has he ever left Canada? Have you ever moved around any other country?
Well,
he doesn't know what the problems involved in immigration. I've moved from Africa to Europe to North America, so I know what. You can't just tell people, go to the BRIC countries. To do what? Carry a brick with you? Or break the border with a brick. You take
Right,
it with you.
right.
Break the border with a brick into a brick country. No, that's not realistic. So why should people come here and then move to the brick country? What's the gain for Canada?
He was just saying that the reality is you have to follow the money, and these emerging big markets, these countries like Brazil, Russia, India, China, that's where those are the future Canadas, supposedly, in the future, big economies or future the leading future economies.
But at what point should the immigrant then move further? So is encouraging reverse immigration, like I was talking about? You move in, roll around for a while, and then move out. What will be Canada's gain if the manpower, the knowledge that is flowing in is flowing back out?
We lose.
So it doesn't make sense. What he should say is that people like him, he has money, has whatever, they should actually come together and create, some kind of support for the government. The community can also be involved in harnessing the talents that come in. He can create platforms for people to be able to thrive and do their own businesses. Whether you want to set up a finance company, you want to give them loans, for small businesses, you give some loans and you charge them very easy rates that will not choke them or kill them. In that way, is helping. And then from Canada, they can then go and do business in the BRIC country, but not necessarily by leaving Canada. They can take business there, bring business from there here. So this is the way I would look at it. Well, why don't we all, if 200,000 people came into Canada this year, and in the next 5 years, you have half of that or a quarter of that moving to the BRIC country. What sense does it make? Yes.
I think it's a real opportune time for people like yourself who are involved in the creative industries, people who are creators, producers of ideas, be it poems, be it whatever, to really kind of take advantage of the current lay of the land. And what does that even mean? I don't know what that means, but I know that there are opportunities for growth. There's opportunities for creating an audience and creating a market. And
there are. But what I'm saying is that the government has a role to play. This old North American sneer when they talk about Obama as being a socialist. The Democrats in the U.S., they are running the primaries now, and I forget the other guys. The older guy, not
Trump.
There's Clinton. No, that's a Republican. He's a Democrat. Sanders.
Yeah.
People, they're beginning to try to label him as socialist. But look, Europe. One of the tricks Europe has, the reason Europe is thriving, is especially because of that welfare system that they have. You go to in Germany, where I studied first, I didn't pay tuition. I was there for 8 years. So I don't come out of school with burden, with debt. Here in Canada, I did a PhD for maybe 7 years. I have $40,000 debt. If I want to start a business, that debt already is like a stone you tie around my neck, and I'm sinking in the sea of debt. So those are the kind of things they mean. This is a kind of the capitalism is wrong-headed, and the government has to create programs to sort of make it easy for younger generation coming out of school to thrive. You want to have people do things like Facebook. This guy did with the Facebook, Zuckerberg. That is how that Facebook has created so much jobs for all kind of people, and opened up other industries that were not there before. That's the kind of vision they should have.
But here's the thing. Here's why I'm playing devil's advocate in a way, is that but that's Zuckerberg and a few other people creating something.
Yes.
Independent of
the government. Yes.
Right?
Possibly.
So you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I
know what you're saying. He had talent, and then but he had the atmosphere for the talent to grow. He dropped out of school, and
which
went
is
into
very
this.
common amongst,
especially
in IT.
high-tech people. Because you just have to know. It's like if you're a soccer player, you either know how. You don't need to go to school to play soccer. You just have the talent, and then you use it. But he also had what he had. I think is probably not the government programming or whatever, but a family program, whatever. He had a family background. He had people who would support, but not everybody has
a
this
support network. Is
yes,
what you're making reference to, right.
So the government should be a support network.
Mentors, advisors.
Yes, the government should create community
investors.
Communities. Maybe community platforms where investors, mentors, business people can come together, and anybody who has ideas can go. And like I started this literary journal. It's been going on for
What is it called?
Maple Tree Literary Supplement. It's been going on for 8 years. Though that's like you have a talent, use it. So I'm creating something that's of use. Give user experience, creating great user experience for the publishing industry, for writers, and for designers. But for it to move further, I don't have that atmosphere where I can, that kind of programming that allows me to monetize this thing. For the Conservative Party cut a lot of funding for the arts because they think the arts it's not really, doesn't really make money. But if you remember ABBA, the music group, ABBA at some point was the biggest foreign yes, from Sweden.
Right.
At that point, they hand. So art can actually make things happen because
it's the creative economy.
Yes, the creative. In some way, you can look at Facebook or social media as some form of art.
Sure,
so it's kind of social art, and it's been generating, making the economy grow larger and all around, not just in the U.S., all around the world. So you start one thing, and then it grows. Things grow. So it starts from a small idea and it moves further and further. So
Facebook just announced that they're going to start investing into as an e-commerce platform where you'll be able to sell online.
Like Shopify?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, which is they just continuously innovate.
Yes.
Redefine,
innovation.
grow.
That's what we do. That's the word. Innovation. There should be programs, government or community programs, or a group of people come together, programs that will allow innovation to take place and creation.
Fair enough. If you don't mind, as we segue, just if you could recite a poem.
Oh yeah, sure.
And then I'll ask you questions about this.
Okay, poem. I'll read the Caribbean Blues.
Okay. And this is your work.
Yes. It's When Love Goes Bust. That's what it's talking about. Postcards scented with love, describing exotic Jamaica. Postcards, still careful artists painting pictures of Bob Marley, immobilized forever in stone, plucking a tone-dead guitar because he does not know the reggae of it. Pictures of gurgling brooks, of lakes of sunlight, of surf and sand and nothing. Your photographs are all hidden away, but do not feel that I do not feel. It is the camera flash of your smile which blinds, and I must shutter my mind against the bright and the dark. Bulletproof my soul against your flashbulb eyes. Do not feel that I do not feel, but those palm grooves of naked bodies, all that oil, all that ripeness, it is love shipwrecked in the sun, even though your name promises a plenitude. Like the blue waters of the bay, it is safe harbor for the seafaring gulls, or the salt of life for the diver fish. Water to flood the sea waste to a harried heart. It is sea winds swaying the sad palms, eternal witnesses to many a drowning, even though you once said to the waves, no panic on the Titanic. Still, the Titanic sank, sitting still in the still blue silences of a dead seabed, deafened by the silent crash of talkative sea conches pressed against waterlogged ears that can no longer hear because life roars on. Up where the swordfish knives through the breakers, she went down amidst a menge of seaweeds and flotsam, like a dead whale, belly up, belly aching the press of water. She sank amidst slimy, grimy crawling things. She sank, fossilized upon the slimy bed of a slimy sea, at Montego Bay, island shipwrecked in the sun. For this you fear the depths, but what fate awaits a champion swimmer except death by water? What fate for the lover but heartbreak at evening when the tropical sun bursts into a million gold ingots, breaking upon the slack fearful waves, hot faggots, racing along the excited banks, with a kiss and a hiss, sinking heart and sky in darkness and ashes. Why do you stare so fixedly towards sea? What dazed sights did you see at the quays? Is it those two sea nymphs at Ochorios, formed like bubbles, feeding each other shells, bathing among the foams, as naked as those nudist forms, lying lazy-limbed upon the sandy cove? No, that those two apparitions were you and I, for we were but bubbles upon the treasurer's crests, weathered together by a molecule of water, and are only together by clinging together, atomized on this reggae fall of waters. What fumes assailed you among the rivers? What sighs, what gnomes, what numbness among smoke giddy leaves? A demon horn appears, bright as an angel, teasing the hot lustful waves that makes you so soon, making eyes with your water-caught clams, clamming at the eye thighs. Fate, do not sway, rock steady, catch the spray, and like Peter the rock, you shall meet God, win, upon the bed sheets of water. Should you think me too obsessed with the wayward ways of water, remember, we are all salt all, and all our members do no other but all dissolve, limb for limb, only liquid. They grab at us without hands, at even tide when the hunter shark scavenges, running away with all our fins, with our bloody steel nets, our upstreaming jaws, streaming red hate for all swimming things which feel. This is why, good Christians, we must hold hands with the waves, remembering Jonah, singing Hosanna before taking a final walk in the Blue Lagoon. It took only a captain's misunderstanding of a rocky canyon for harbor. It took the kingfisher's stubborn dalliance with a whirlpool to shatter the glass rough stillnesses. Nevertheless, said the proud swan to the lake, when I take a decision, it is fixed, yet the fixed North Star to which the sunk bent prow bowed, sank with the stern, knocking the sea's bright scattered teeth, all a-skittering over all this big bright white bogged basin, and lost its keen all-compassing eye in the rocked ship's wrecked wake, forever forgoing the sun-kissed romance of the halls, a mere pop star, popping for love with the bubbles breaking out of the open drowning ports, and no more turn to sexy starboard. Port wide open port, wheel. On the west coast, the sun drops plop into the sea, driving your jealous mud skipper crabbing this past 7 hopping summers for the hairy hole, old in bulging trousers, stung by the bees, because then he knows you must winter away, follow the strong sweet streams periodically, hot, cold, hot, follow where last season your touring hand, giddy behind the Ypsilon waterfalls, saw with closed eyes our own waters fall upon the paddles of one cheeky lifeguard, pleading, don't rock the boat, we should know where to hold, because strong streams. Okay, I'll stop there.
I don't know what to say, man. You know what? You transformed when you performed there, man. You teleported.
I'm in a different space.
You are, man. You just teleported, man. And you're the energy, whatever you want to call it, the presence. It's like. Tell us who you are, because I don't know who you are right now. Introduce yourself.
I'm a poet. I've been a poet for some 2 decades, I think. I've been writing since high school, and I have 2 published collections, Globetrotter and Hitler's Children. One is called. Okay. The second part, Hitler's Children, refers to the right wing in Germany. I lived there for 8 years, so I was like, it was my love letter to the right wing.
Wow.
Because they say they are Hitler's children, so I call them what they are. Simple. They are great people in Germany, but these people embarrass them. So I needed to it is a poet's witness and testament to what was going on in the right wing in Germany. So Globetrotter is about my travels, moving out from place to place and capturing the essence of those places. And the first poem opens like this. It's a paean to Toronto, actually. It's an immigrant's observation of Toronto. It says, Toronto is Amsterdam adrift at sea. It breathes the open Atlantic, where lines and angles blur and bend into mist. Toronto is Prague, without our hankering of narrow streets, narrow sky, and virgin tight apartment blocks. It is London, long jumping our imperial shadows, Trafalgaring into space. In winter, the north comes to visit without our lights. Not even Scheveningen could breathe such bone-bending blast. Sir Winter, gruff, arthritic old braggart with woolly mane. Is that snow on his head, or is it showing Cass hair, fluorescent against the night of Africa's dark politician? As we sit in Düsseldorf, in a foyer of smoked hotel wine, and eye the question. Photographer, you have no perspective wide as the Autobahn, from Scarborough to Etobicoke, where the roads scream and cry, rubber, rubber, tears long as a calendar year. And look where the streetcar has left a scar in the brush flower as it goes Berlining around Queen's Avenue. The white dripped Reichstag is not here. There should be no hurry to undress it with tourist eyes. What does the endless North American sky reveal? Like those sex workers in Amsterdam's love quarters. She says simply, I am wide open. So the streetcar becomes a tram in slow phallic rush on Lambermeerdervoort in The Hague, flirting foolishly with the horizon. The red light flashes where there are no red light districts. The streetcar stops to gaze at lovers, trundling down the avenue, down Dundas, heavy with love and its weights, to Eaton Centre, where hearts pump more round from the fondling and folding of love's caress. Amongst the ring and jazz of the old distillery, young Toronto steps outside of Troy, in full teenage glare, hair streaked with lightning, because a girl smells better. She brushes the sweeter's kiss and the sun off her thundering skin, where all colors meet. So this just gives an example of Globetrotter. You see, I'm moving from Amsterdam, The Hague, to Prague. Toronto, to Prague, and just, yeah. So I'm a poet, I'm a scholar as well, literally a scholar. Did a PhD in English at Carleton University, and I'm also a publisher and editor. I published the Maple Tree Literary Supplement, which we mentioned earlier, and for which I'm lamenting that there should be opportunities to grow it and monetize, but that the communal infrastructures or the cuts to the arts and things have affected that. So, in short, I'm a writer, scholar, and publisher.
Can you tell us your name again?
Amatoritsero Ede.
What inspired you to? You said you started writing in high school, yeah? What inspired you to write? And were you first writing poetry? Were you first writing short stories? What were you writing, and what inspired you?
Poetry. Poetry saved me from the streets. So
Literally.
Yes, saved me from the streets. Saved me, got me out of trouble. So instead of, I was a fool with a book in my hand growing up. I always had a book and a pen somewhere, and I was always jotting stuff. So
in Lagos?
Actually, I grew up in the delta part of, the south part of Nigeria, in Sapele, and then Ibadan, and of course Lagos as well. But so that's discovering poetry through the works of Gerald Manley Hopkins, Alexander Pope, John Dryden. Those were my teachers then. Reading their works, that inspired me, and I started. Of course, the Nigerian poets too, like Okibo and Shoyinka, who I met when I was 18, who's been my mentor for all this while. So that's how I started writing, and I had a sort of very introspective childhood or growing up period. So poetry helped me to navigate the inner world, so to speak. It was more of a therapy. It started as a therapy, and later it becomes a big deal. It becomes an obsession, and you can't do without it. That's how it started.
What do you mean by an obsession?
An obsession in the sense that if you're not writing, you don't feel good. So that's why when I was doing the PhD, I had to, because it sort of put a halt to my writing activity, I had to start the literary journal to keep me in the loop, so to speak. I'm a cultural animal, let's put it that way. I have to do something. And going to the academy is like prostitution for me.
Going to the academy?
Academy is like prostitution. I'm more of a writer at heart. I'm a writer first before anything else.
When you say prostitution, you feel, is that are you critiquing academia in terms of?
No, not necessarily. Just my own relationship to the academy, and as a writer, my duty is first to the text, to the written text, to just write poetry, plays, creative nonfiction. But
who do you write for?
First, I write for myself. I'm my own first audience. If I can't convince myself that something is good, I won't get it out there. So I have to be satisfied with it. I have to be happy with it before it then goes to the second reader. So I'm the first reader. The second reader is the larger public. Yeah. So I write for me first, and then I write for the public. And you don't know, there's this Nigerian poet who says that who insists that he writes for other poets. He doesn't write for just anybody because of the heightened level at which he uses language, But I guess that's a little bit of an exaggeration because he underestimates the public. Because there are people out there who have poetic sensibilities, even though they might not write poetry, but they can appreciate. So yes, I write for myself first, and then for the larger audience, and for anybody who to whom the poem might speak, that poem might touch, I remember writing something about motherhood. Somebody just commissioned. I said, how do you order? You can't order a poem like you order pizza. But actually you can. You could write about anything. Just put your mind to it and ask me to do something on motherhood. And it goes like, and I called it Mother and Child. It goes like, a fetus nestles in its watery hammock. I was trying to capture the position of the baby in the womb and the fact that it's in like water, like an amphibian, floating in there. So that kind of poem will appeal, even though it was written for a different poet, to appeal to a woman who just had a child, or a mother, any mother. Say, fetus nestles in its watery hammock. I can't remember the rest now because I haven't really finished the work. It's a long poem, but I just started it. So,
Amma, what themes and stories and what themes and stories do you have in your poetry that are common across?
Well, the one I read, Caribbean Blues, the very first one I read, you see it talking about love gone bust. It's passionate. It's talking about the sexuality involved. It's talking in a lot. I discuss sexuality because it's a very human thing. We are all sexual beings, but I discuss it in such a way that it's not vulgar, But I say I use this phallic symbol, the paddle, which is phallic in that poem, and the water, the paddle splitting the waves into two. So in that way, I describe eroticism without actually using any word that might scare anybody, or that it won't be. Is it X-rated? Could they say? So yeah.
No, I don't think that's triple X-rated. But no, I know what you're saying.
Yes. So yeah, in my poetry you find love, you find politics, it lost children. Yeah, you find existential, topics, themes. You find the immigration experience. You find human rights, and all. So it's rather broad, and I don't sort of limit myself to a theme. I write as the mood takes me, as a topic. It interests me, and I write about it.
Can you tell us a little bit about, so you've moved around a lot, obviously.
Yes.
You've lived in many places.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your journey to Germany and your experience there? How was that for you? And what kind of poetry did you write while you were there?
Yes, Well, the poetry that came out of Germany is that Hitler's Children. Is almost like a book in itself. So because my second collection is like two books in one. So Hitler's Children is the second part and very long, numbered A to Z, and it was a sort of distillation of all my experiences there. The experiences itself were bittersweet. I had great friends there. I have met wonderful people, incredible people. But I guess I overreact to political inequality, social inequality in the society, where you had racists who would go out and attack people for the way they look. They look black, brown, and that was more to the east of Germany, though. And I didn't personally experience any kind of thing like that. But you saw it on the news. You saw this guy, Adriano, was killed on the streets. A black guy from Mozambique who was married to a German woman. And, attacked by neo-Nazis, beaten to death and undressed and pushed into a bush. It caused a big uproar among the left wing in Germany, in the political,
Which city did this happen in?
I think it was Dresden. Yeah, I think it was Dresden in the east. This thing is more prevalent in the east of Germany.
You write a lot about human rights in general, right? In politics.
Yes, I write about it, not in a direct way. Not like I will say, okay, I want to write about human rights. Not like that. But it's sort of derivative. Like from that long poem, Hitler's Children, it's protesting the inhumanity visited upon that guy Adriano was killed on the street, and it's sort of a human rights project in the sense that it's insisting that everybody has a right to freedom of movement, freedom of speech, freedom to be who you are, whether you are black, you are green, you are red. That's your problem. It shouldn't be somebody else's headache. So in that sense, yes.
Right. Do you write about other African? Do you write about African politics in general?
African politics.
Do you touch that subject?
Before I left Nigeria, I used to, but you see, right, the situation that the people will say this is Afro-pessimism. That's what we call it in the academy. They talk about, they say they frown upon it. You should not be pessimistic. You have to be optimistic. But if the realities on the ground tell me to be pessimistic, I'm usually an optimist. But I don't see any thing that the African century. There's no African century anywhere, because if you look at the colonial structures that's been there, the colonial structure is meant to hold people back, hold the system back. Because if you've been colonized, well, shit happens. So, but after colonialism, what do? Why don't you rearrange yourself? You take from modernity what is useful. What is not useful, you reject. But these people just accept everything. You accept uncritically the political systems. You accept the economic system when you don't have when it's not localized. You don't make it to suit your own local conditions. You accept capitalism. You accept all kind of things. Africa had its own economic system, political system before colonialism. So what can be done is to try to retrieve those pre-colonial structures and integrate it with the modern, not just wholesalely accepting modernity and to the detriment of local conditions or situations. So it's frustrating to write about Africa, because when you ask me what do I write for, I said for myself first, as therapy. Am I right about Africa as therapy to ease the burden I feel, or the homelessness, the exile? If I left to me, I'll be home in Nigeria, but I've been made into an exile because of bad political leaders, bad economic policies, lack of any vision, lack of creativity in political in statecraft. So I have something I'm working on to deal with this. Like, it will be a major thing. I've written about this as a teenager, growing up, but I stopped doing that after I moved out. I was actually working on a novel about it, but these people will not listen. Who are they? The political class in Africa. They're not going to listen to you. They are too much ingrown like a toenail. That they don't see anything outside. They are so much into themselves.
Wow.
They don't see.
Like a toenail, ingrown toenail.
Yes.
Jesus.
Growing inside instead of growing outward.
That's horrible.
Yeah, it is. It's all they have some kind of fungus that make them grow inwards. So, but I'm working on a poetry collection. I have an idea, which I call Incontinent Continent.
Okay.
That's the title of a whole collection. So, but that tells you already what direction I'm going. It's Incontinent Continent. When a man is incontinent, he can't go anywhere without his bowels falling out. The same with Africa. The bowels are always falling out.
Wow.
Nothing holds. Everything is just going to pieces. The economy is bad. People in public office steal money. You have one person who steal like several billions and go and hide it somewhere. You rob your own treasury and then take the money to the Swiss account. It's stupid. If you think you have the ghost, you are being haunted by colonialism. Change some things, make the ghost go away. Change your name. Nigeria was given to you by somebody. Change the name. You have English as lingua franca. You have over 250 or 2,500 Nigerian languages. Choose one as a lingua franca. Make English a second language. Why can't they do that? You are a president of an African country. You go to UN and speak poorly. Must you speak English? Speak your language. Don't be alienated. So these are the issues. And unless the past, I remember the ALA conference this year in Germany, I proposed a paper I called Refashioning the Past of African Futures. Because they'd given this idea that, Africa is something, what's going to happen? Great stuff is coming. I don't see any great stuff coming. If somebody is deceiving me, I'm not going to deceive myself. Right? I don't see any great stuff coming. I don't see
You don't see any innovation, any development?
There is the development as second hand. If you have electricity in Africa, it's a second hand development. Did they create it? You have internet there right now. It's a second hand development. These are second hand development. Right. And China is running all over the place, taking things over. How can China build the African Union building for Africans? Isn't that idiotic? How foolish can that be? You let another country come and build your conference center where all the African heads of state will sit down and deliberate. That means the walls are already wired, bugged. Everything you discuss goes to the other side. They know what you're doing before you take one step. So that shows you how these people are. They rule like someone who has no head, just walking around with no head.
Wow.
That's the way it is.
You're killing me right now, man. You're
you don't think. It's terrible.
Do you have a poem on that?
Nothing I can remember now. I just what was it? No, I have poems about it, but they are my earlier poems, and I can't remember them right now.
That's too bad.
Probably I repressed it, because it is a painful experience. So I just write it, and therapeutically I've dealt with that, and then I leave it alone. But this one that I'm working on now, Incontinent Continent, yes, that would be something. It would be one big, long poem.
What shifting now towards your work in the writing community, in the poetry community here in Ottawa and in Canada.
Yeah.
Tell us once again about your online publication and what the future of that publication is. What's happening right now?
Maple Tree Literary Supplement, MTLS, is a multicultural, culturally diverse publication. I designed it especially like that. When I came in, I realized that there's no avenue, no platform for culturally diverse publications, and there are people out there who are writers, artists, and they have nowhere to showcase their work. Because it happened to me, I sent my poems to, I don't know if it was Mahalat Review. I just sent it to. And then the person came back, the editor came back with the email, and the voice was, "Oh my God, we can't use these poems." That kind of, as if he was staggered. They felt totally
as if it was
staggered. The editor felt staggered. He felt shocked, or I was totally politically not correct. Send one of the poems I sent is this. You'll see why now. About Germany, when you say, did I write about it? You know the Lord's Prayer. Germany is a Christian country, right? So if a Christian country, Christians supposedly are going out to kill people, and Jesus said, thou shalt not kill. But it's a Christian country. And this poem, I called it the Skinhead's Lord's Prayer. Of course, you know Skinhead is the neo-Nazi. And it says, Our Father, who art in Valhalla, hallowed be thy name. Thine Reichdom come, thine ill be done on earth as it is in hell. Give us this day our daily cups. Forgive us our weaknesses as we batter all non-Aryans come. Lead us into temptation and deliver us from the devil. For thine is the Reichdom, the fire and the glory forever and ever. Hail, men. So this is a parody of the Lord's Prayer. Wow. And I sent that to this editor who was like, oh my God, I am not going to use that. So I realized, okay, if I'm not politically correct, I write what I like. As Lewis, what's this guy, the South African activist writer, I forget his name now. He says, I write what I like. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to have freedom of expression. I better start a platform, because nobody's going to publish that kind of stuff here. So I started that for me and for other people, but more and more I give the space to other people to publish their own stuff. And as for the future of the journal, it's an ongoing project. It's a lifelong project. I'm struggling with funding right now, but I'm looking for ways to circumvent that through maybe initiating advertisements with the publishers whose books we review. So we service the publishing industry, the writing public, spoken word artists, visual artists, and it's in its 20th issue now, issue number 20. I've been doing this since 2008, and the website just been refurbished, upgraded, bringing it up to much more up to date. So it's an exciting project, but a challenging one where I have to sometimes pay out of pocket, even though I'm still like trying to get into a professorship after the PhD. And so it's exciting, it's challenging, but part of the fun is the challenge, because in as they say in theater, the show must go on, even if there's war going on outside the door. You must complete that stage show that's already started. You can't stop it. Yeah.
We're coming near to the end of our interview, and I just have a few quick questions to ask you.
Yeah.
What did all your years in school, what have they taught you in one sentence or one major summary? Or a few.
That's a tough one in one sentence. It shows you that material knowledge is inadequate. All material knowledge is inadequate. Let me just put it that way, because you say in one sentence. It shows the inadequacy of a knowledge of the material world. That there's for there to be a balance, you have to have spiritual knowledge. I'm not talking about religious knowledge, fanaticism. I'm talking of knowledge of the human being as spirit, not just as matter.
Wow.
Because that would enable us to move above all the problems that we have.
What do you see in the next, as far as Africa, we're speaking of a continent here of over 50 countries or so?
54.
54, sure. What do you see Africa in the next decade now?
Africa's antics over the centuries has blinded me. I can't see anything.
Wow.
The mirror is very dark. So
Man, come on, give me something positive here.
Oh yeah, they have to change the I could imagine a revolution breaking out across the continent, like what you had, the Arab Spring. If you had something like that, then you'll see a turnaround. Otherwise, it will be business as usual. The status quo will be held there. The power blocks and the mafias and those who has vested interest will not want the system to change. That's the problem. They don't want it to change because it's good for them.
Status quo.
Yes.
What advice do you give to writers, poets, and people who are involved in literature as far as creators? Well, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would say I think writers, artists should be true to their own muse, to their own calling, to their own inner drives, and not create art or writing just for in a hurry, or because you want to be popular, or you want to be called a writer or a poet. You should identify where your strengths are and focus on your strengths. Everybody cannot be a poet. Everybody can't be a novelist. So, although it's fun to be a novelist because you get you get returns faster. You might be a poet and be slugging it out for years and years before you ever seem to. But what's more important is to be true to your own self by focusing on where your strengths are, and not playing up to the gallery. This is that's the one advice I can give. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time. And where can we find your website online?
Oh, maybe Tree Literary Supplement. You can find it on www as usual, and then MTLS.ca. That's Mama Toronto London Sister.ca.
Very cool. Nice speaking with you. Very, very interesting to hear your opinions and stance on issues.
Thank you. Dankeschön.
Thank you for listening to Conversations with Garmamie. For more information, visit garmamie.com. That's GARMAMIE.com.